Hi, my name is Lisa Brody, and everybody watches accesstv.org. Peace.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Do it like this. Ba-boom. Ba-boom. Do it like that. Yeah. Ba-boom.
Yes, this is Jonathan Small broadcasting from AccessTV.org studios. Today is September the 7th. No, excuse me, September the 6th, 2012. Very nice day again after the rain the past couple of days here in the greater Hartford area. And basically, hope everybody is enjoying themselves. Big football game took place last night. Dallas Cowboys was able to be victorious over the New York Giants, the world champion Giants, actually. And the football season round has just officially been started. This up and coming Sunday, there will be a full schedule. This is the autumn time, or we're going into the autumn time of the year, so it's a whole going to be a little different scenery, particularly in certain parts of our country. Just trying to end up the week on a few different open issues, basically. Nothing direct. I mentioned so many different topics over the past couple of months. I think the two that kind of stand to mind, obviously, was the summit when I brought that issue up. And I think the best way to advocate a summit might be for your own individual well being. Don't too much rely on other elected officials, even though this is a major up and coming election for both parties are trying to convince you that they have the best solutions towards running the country, and you might end up hearing a so-called summit proposed either sometime after the election. I mean, there's so many different issues about how the economy is going, and I just think sometimes you have to look at your own direct circumstances and feel exactly where you are at. And if you need some assistance and you're in a tremendous crisis, that's going to be very difficult to expect government to come in and be the solution. So the summit, I kind of mentioned on a local level that we had proposed here in the greater Hartford area, and I know it's a common theme that you hear about. And then other issues about in America and society, do you really need a college education, or do you need some type of vocational or technical trade? Because in the whole arguments about where the job market is at, that we're not creating enough jobs, we're certainly not creating the type of high paying jobs. That's what I'm hearing of late too. Even the jobs that has been created, they're not the high paying or good paying jobs. You're not making the same amount of salary that you were making before you were laid off or fired or demoted. So if we're losing ground, that we're not able to keep up with the standard of living, because just the basic arithmetic is if you're not creating the type of job market that you could make what you used to make or should even make more, then clearly you're going to be slipping. And I think that is something that we need to be very careful of. Understanding that, if you want to make a good living, you want to be marketable, now you got to ask yourself, is college or some type of higher education or just a vocational or technical training is the best solution? I think on the job training is still out there, but that's a very small version of the economic structure. I wouldn't say it's non-existent, but I think most emphasis on good paying careers seems to be locked into college, highly skilled business training, technical or some type of vocational training, and it could be a broad range. A 2-year community college transforming into a 4-year college or 1-year schooling. I mean, you have a lot of schoolings out there, but at the end of the day, you want to make sure whatever diploma, degree, certificate that you receive is something that you can utilize, not just as a piece of paper, but something that you could always have to get you into the labor market. And I mentioned the other day on Labor Day, where the Bureau of Labor Statistics is analyzing many of the economic trends of the unemployment rate, how many people are actually in the workforce, where we're at with our wages, and again, it could be very complex. I think the other issue I mentioned before was about capital or credit versus knowledge. And again, you really need both. You could have capital and money and access to credit, but you're not knowledgeable about issues, you're not knowledgeable about life, and then you don't know how to put your money or credit to any good use. You can have the knowledge, and that's usually a good sign to lead you into better advancement, but if you don't have the capital or credit sometimes to go along with your knowledge, you could still be stumbling, having a very difficult time. So those are just four critical issues I think you would like to look at, and I don't know if everything could be put on a national agenda. Policymakers certainly look at higher education, technical, vocational schooling, college, of course, business courses. On it, like again, on the job training, I mean, it's still to some degree available, but it's more competitive. It's very hard to get on the job training. Basically, an employer would just hire you, put you alongside. It could be some form of a apprenticeship program where you work until you complete a certain amount of hours, and then you are able to be granted a license. I mean, that's somewhat what you go through in the vocational level. But basically, beyond just a high school, what you're going to need today to really get your foot into the labor market, to have a good standard of living, most likely you're going to need some form of a higher educational structure. Again, is everybody out there capable of going to college or vocational or technical school or any other additional job training programs that exist? Some people say we don't even have enough job training programs. Basically, the job training program is if a company just hires you and puts you into the job market and then you get trained. But to have a set aside job training program and then you go through the job training program looking to get a job, unless it's a direct link with the company, again, you can find yourself with a certificate out here looking for a job and just felt like you wasted your time other than whatever you was able to learn. And if you're not able to put what you learned to any good use over a period of time, it's not going to really make you feel, number one, much better. It's not going to do much for you. And you could actually become more discouraged about moving beyond other training, because you're going to say, I went through one training program, nothing came out of it. Why should I go through another training program? So it's all a serious issue that we have to be realistic about. And a summit would be designed to try to address those issues along with many other issues. But at the end of the day, when the summit is over, if there's no viable plan in place to really put whatever the meetings and the planning was designed to do, then the summit is not going to be considered a success, and the people, again, are not going to buy into the so-called summits. So, again, we have a lot of different issues simultaneously that we have to always be aware of how we're going to be trying to promote our society where we're at. I mean, you're hearing some really tremendous success stories of where we've been able to advance through technology and, advancement in science and math, businesses, global levels, conglomerates. I mean, there's some tremendous opportunities that exist in this country, in this society. I don't want to give people the impression that we're totally slipping, but I think we're still moving probably in two different directions, because if a large segment of people are not really going to get into much benefits of what we have in our great country, the great schoolings, the great companies, the great banking systems that we have. I mean, even where they just had the Democratic National Convention in Charlotte, North Carolina has, I think, the second in the country in banking institutions behind New York. And even in that area that they have a tremendous growth, they indicated that Charlotte, North Carolina was the fastest growing urban center in the country. They indicated that the unemployment rate is in the double digits. There's a lot of people who don't feel that the job market and the job opportunities in that particular city is improving. Obviously, they put the emphasis with the Democratic National Convention in Charlotte to make people be aware of that this city needs some improvements. I mean, obviously, you have a lot of businesses, have a lot of banking institutes, a lot of people have moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. But again, that means more people are looking for work, more people are looking for opportunities, and if you're not able to keep up with the demand, then you're going to have a lot of people counted in the unemployment rolls. And then again, that creates another whole problem for a city. I mean, every city, I think, in our country has tremendous challenges and issues. I think it's hard to really say you're going to find any city that is immune from not having some obstacles and barriers that they have to go through. But obviously, the people are the ones that I still think is the key to your city. I mean, obviously, city government is very important. It's needed. It kind of is the nucleus that kind of runs your city, but the people have a lot to do with it too. And if the people are not able to really benefit and they become actually more dependent on social services, it's a drain. I mean, you hear this all the time with the Republican conservative movements, that the left is ruining the country. They are pushing more people into the social service sector. But again, if you don't have many alternatives, you don't have many options, you're not knowledgeable about what you need to do, what else is there really for you to function on? I mean, you don't want people to turn to crime. You don't want people to really die. And I think that was the true intentions when you formulated our social service systems, make sure that you always have that helping hand. But at some point, people got to be able to utilize the services to be able to get off of the services or get out of the services and move into the next level. And there's been some tremendous stories of success of many people being able to do that. Obviously, when your country goes through an economic downturn, it makes it more difficult now to go and expect getting to some type of training program is going to be beneficial for you to get into the labor market. I mean, more people will say if you're out of work and you're underemployed, you need more additional training. It's going to push more people into those pools. And then it's going to be, you got to have the job market or the business creations to fill the demand when people finish the so-called training or finishing your schooling. We're very concerned, if not to the point of worry, that so many college graduates are going to have a difficult time finding employment, number one, in the field that they went to school for. But even beyond that, will there be enough jobs for them? Even if your plan A option isn't available, what are your plan B options? I mean, it's very adjustment. It's going to be a very adjustment for many people who go to school with the expectations of getting hired in the field that they went to school, expecting this amount of money, this amount of opportunities, and then all of a sudden that seems to not be a reality. And now you got to all of a sudden take whatever you can find, hoping that something, and that's the key word here you got to always look at. It's easy to say with your degree, and I know you got to have your spiritual and your faith belief that something could be a lot better. But if you're saying you're going to get a job, you went to school, and then when something else comes along better, you'll be in a position to take that job. Well, we got to make sure as a country we're providing something better for our human capital to be able to obtain. And I think that's the biggest concern that you hear about, that we're just not creating the type of jobs and opportunities overall for a lot of people, not just people going to college, people graduating high school, people that have dropped out of the workforce, people that have dropped out of school. It's a lot of people that's out here in the workforce and just in society in general that's going to need some form of opportunities. And being poor and not having no money, nothing to look forward to, you're not able to take vacations, you're not able to send your children to the type of schooling that you would like, you're not able to help your family members, you can't really help yourself. This is a serious issue that this country has to also deal with. And I think the election is always going to be an important election, but 20 years ago, I remember almost very similar stories. And I know we had some success afterwards going into the 90s, but just giving you something to clearly be aware of. Take your own lives as the best starting point I could recommend. I think after you start with yourself and your direct circumstances, then in getting involved in organizations and the electoral process, you'll find that that will make your situation probably a lot more easier to process. But trying to go to government and organizations to come in and fix your circumstances and your family, I don't think that's the best approach. Again, this is Jonathan Small. I had enjoyed again doing the Small Report from accesstv.org studios in downtown Hartford. Tomorrow will be Friday. I'll have some more information on some up and coming changes, and I hope everything could be worked out according to plans. And until that time, everybody out there, keep the faith and have a very blessed day.
Let's do it.